I'm Jo James and I'm the Chief Executive of the Kent Invicta Chamber, and it's my pleasure today to officially welcome you to today's event on the EU transition. Funny enough, last night I looked at some previous speeches I'd done on Brexit, and I actually came across the first one I did shortly after the EU referendum on the 23rd of June 2016. And I had to smile to myself because it started with, some say we're on the edge of greatness, while others say we're up the creek without a paddle. Well, here we are now, 1,564 days later, and we've had to contend with the coronavirus pandemic for the past 8 months. So I'll leave it to you to decide where you think we are. But actually, if you think it's up the creek without a paddle, you're certainly in the right place at the right time, because today we've packed the day full of sessions to give you the latest information, the facts as they stand, and give you a clear understanding of what you need to do without having to navigate your way through the reams and reams of paperwork that's on the .gov websites. But here in Kent, we are the gateway into and out of Europe, which from a business perspective is certainly a great asset. But as things stand, with the threat of a no deal, it does give cause to concern for businesses. But today we're going to be hearing from Kent County Council, and hopefully they'll be able to put some of your concerns at rest. You'll be able to hear about the preparations that have been made and measures put in place to mitigate the problem and actually keep our roads moving here in Kent. And actually, one word here, there's no need for anybody to get to the 1st of January and then suddenly panic and think, what is it I need to be doing? There's plenty you can start doing now. And Kent County Council, the Chamber and others have been putting in a lot of work over the last 2-3 years, particularly ramping up this year, to ensure that the advice and information about the EU transition is there for business. So there's a lot of talk at the moment going on about a potential deal being reached later this week, but I'm a realist. We've been here before. I think again it's a case of let's wait and see what happens. But the problem we all know is time is now starting to run out. As a chamber, we've been carrying out surveys, supporting and preparing businesses for Brexit since 2016. And sadly, although a lot of our larger internationally active businesses have been taking steps to prepare, our latest research shows that business preparedness is still relatively low. Businesses are really facing extremely challenging conditions as a result of the coronavirus pandemic, and the lack of clarity of the future trading arrangements is only adding to their tasks. If our experienced larger traders are struggling to see clarity, then it certainly doesn't bode well for either our small or our inexperienced exporters. Whatever the two sides agree, changes are going to happen at the border, and as things stand, businesses sadly don't have all the information they need, particularly looking in terms of costs and processes and tariffs and quotas, and obviously importantly what's going to happen with the Northern Ireland Great Britain border. And as you can imagine, it's difficult for businesses to be able to plan ahead with confidence if they don't know what the trading landscape's going to be. How are you supposed to work out your pricing if you don't know what the tariffs are? But on a positive note, you've all made the first positive step today by attending the event. And hopefully we can navigate you through some of the myths and some of the jargons, and hopefully set you on your way with a clearer path and hopefully some hope for the future. We've got a range of speaker sessions today on various different stages, so you can navigate the landing page throughout the day and join the session of your choice. And If you do have to log off for a while, you know, you can come back into the conference anytime. It's easy through the landing page and then just enter the stage that you want to. But it will be great to have you with us here throughout the day. But please do have a good day today. Take the opportunity to ask questions of our speakers, anything that you want to know. And if you want to know, actually, I think we're on the edge of greatness. That's my view. It may take time, it's not going to be straight away, but I think we'll get there. Because what I do know, and I sincerely believe, is that the Kent business community is very entrepreneurial, and you are also very resourceful. And I know that you will maximise any opportunities. And as a county, we can start to eventually reap the rewards that this new environment will provide for us. So, you know, please do. Make the most, ask the questions that you want to ask, take the opportunity to find out all the information you need. So final words from me, thank you for joining us, and please do have a great day. So it's now my pleasure to hand over to Roger Gough, the leader of Kent County Council.
Thank you very much, Joe. Good morning, everyone. I'm Roger Gough, leader of Kent County Council, have been the leader now for just over a year, and an interesting year it's been. And Joe, thank you so much for your introduction, and my huge thanks to Kent Invicta Chamber and the Kent and Medway Growth Hub for putting on this event. I think it promises to be an excellent one, and it's certainly very, very timely. And I'd also like to actually say my thanks for the role that you have played during this year of crises and challenges. I think that the huge commitment that Joe and the Chamber and indeed the Growth Hub have put into supporting businesses, and we've been able to work with them very, very closely, has been a huge contribution to the vitality under difficult conditions of that business community in Kent that Joe spoke of. Today is very much focused on Brexit and on the end of transition. It's an issue that's looming large. Just yesterday marked 1 month to the end of transition, and it's essential that across the public sector, working closely with business support organisations such as the Chamber, the FSB, Institute of Directors, the LEP and others, we do all we can to support a smooth transition from the EU, one that keeps our Kent and Medway businesses trading and our traffic moving. And I will be saying a little bit more about that. It is the main subject for today's event. But today is also, of course, the day that we emerge from national lockdown into, in Kent and Medway, Tier 3 of the COVID restrictions. And so I thought I should just touch on that subject as well. Now, as some of you may know, I wrote to the Health Secretary on the topic of the restrictions and their application to Kent, particularly with its impact on the business community here in mind. Now, I was clear in that, and I remain clear that health of our residents has to remain a top priority. And I'm under no illusion that the position we have in Kent is a serious one. And it's widespread. It's not just confined to a couple of districts or boroughs. Nonetheless, I did make my views clear that placing the whole of the county into Tier 3 is severe, and in areas where the number of cases is very low and shows no signs of rapid increase, the position should be reviewed. That said, I think the government has made its position clear, and I think the overriding priority now is to work with communities and partners to drive down the number of cases in all parts of the county. If we do that, then we will certainly accelerate the relief we can bring to businesses and getting out of Tier 3 as soon as we can. And on that basis, I'm pleased to confirm that as a result of our lobbying, a team of 5 military logistic experts has been allocated to Kent to provide much needed capacity and expertise working with the public health team as they set up targeted non-symptomatic testing for key groups and communities, so focused where the outbreaks are greatest. And accurate tests which return a result in a short time scale will be key to helping to arrest and turn round the spread of the virus. The local contact tracing system in Kent has also been live since Friday, and we've put experienced call handlers into the service. We continue to recruit to ensure that we will be able to service the expected level of calls. We're using local numbers because that increases the likelihood of calls being picked up, and we're liaising closely with district councils on actions to check contact information and visit people who do not answer, and to visit them at a local level. So our focus is very strongly on doing this to try to turn the tide, and from that generate, as I say, that relief to business. Clearly we have on the further horizon brighter prospects with this morning's news about the vaccine, but in the meantime businesses have tough months to get through, and we will seek to do all we can to ensure that that burden is lightened as much as possible. And clearly for business, the combination of COVID restrictions and our imminent departure from the EU adds further challenge and uncertainty. There's no doubt that the impact is already serious, with an estimated 12% downturn in the Kent economy, with unemployment rising to perhaps 3 times pre-COVID levels, and the hospitality sector hit particularly hard. So I do want to assure you that in response, we'll do all we can to support you, your employees, and your business through this extremely difficult time. Without a thriving business community, the county simply doesn't function, and that remains absolutely the heart of what we do. And I hope today will be essential and helpful to you in providing the practical information and support that's going to be given in preparing for EU transition. We have to recognise the scale of what that involves and the major impact it has. In part, of course, it's, and this would apply across the country, a huge change in our trading regime. And that's a change which will take effect whichever way things go. So whether there's a deal or not, there is a major change. We are leaving the single market and the customs union, and that in itself is a huge change. But also, of course, our geographical position at the short straits means that Kent has very specific challenges from that. And if that goes wrong, the resulting traffic disruption has a huge effect on Kent and on its businesses. And so I'm pleased that later on today, or later this morning, you'll be hearing from Toby Howe, who with our corporate director, Barbara Cooper, has spearheaded engagement with government to develop transport plans to keep the county moving and the traffic flowing. And I think you'll get great value from Toby. He does tell it exactly as it is. He is absolutely on top of this subject, and he will give you, I think, both the realistic assessment as to where things stand and the reassurance at the same time on all that we are doing locally. Not all of what comes out of it depends on us. Trader and haulier readiness, as Joe indicated, is absolutely vital. That's something that government is campaigning to raise, and indeed how the government systems that support the new trading regime will actually work out. But what we have worked on is to install the traffic management systems with above all the priority that whatever the outcome, we are doing our utmost to ensure that Kent residents and Kent businesses can go about their day-to-day lives and work without being excessively disrupted by what, as I say, will be a major change. Later on, you'll be hearing from my colleague, Cabinet Member for Economic Development, Mike Whiting, who will introduce a series of initiatives and sector assistance supported by the County Council. That will include the Kent International Business Export Programme and our support through Locate in Kent, Produced in Kent and Visit Kent, all of whom continue their excellent work with investors, producers, and in promoting our very hard-hit visitor and hospitality sector. And in the course of the morning, you will also hear about our trading standards services and advice, which can be so critical to many businesses and are doubly so at this time of transition. To finish, there are two announcements I wanted to make, which I hope reiterate the degree of support and commitment that KCC is making to the business community through this time, both of COVID and of EU transition. The COVID-19 helpline and business support service provided by the Kenton Medway Growth Hub since March has been invaluable. With over 11,000 business contacts, almost 5,000 individual business advice sessions and with expert advisors, and a 99.7% referral rate from satisfied businesses, its impact has already been huge. And I'm delighted to confirm that KCC will support the extension of the helpline for another 3 months until the end of March. In addition, £6 million has been made available by KCC and Medway for loans to businesses affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, and has so far helped 100 different businesses. And I'm very pleased to confirm that through our Kenton Medway Business Fund programme, we'll be offering further loans at 0% interest to support local business growth. And working with the Chamber, district councils and partners across both the public and private sectors, we're going to continue to look at how best we can maximise and target support, recognising the particular challenges that our businesses face at this time. So please be reassured, we'll be doing all we can to help the county return to business as soon as possible after the COVID restrictions are lifted, and that we make the most extensive preparations we can to keep Kent moving and businesses operating and thriving through the end of transition. So thank you very much for inviting me to speak at this extremely important webinar. I do see it as a fundamental part of our support to business through EU transition and beyond. And I hope that you find this a valuable and informative day. Thank you. I think it's now back to Tudor.
Roger, thank you very much indeed for those encouraging words. We do have a mountain to climb, but I think we're all confident that there's a huge amount of support available to us all. So let me just run you through the agenda for today. We have quite a lot of expertise in our ranks, and we're delighted that we've been joined by colleagues from the Netherlands and from Belgium as well, who also have expertise and, of course, can feed back to us things from their perspective. But just running through the agenda today, as Joe mentioned earlier, there's the opportunity to dip out and sort of pop back in. So there are certain things that will be of more interest to you than others. So we are going to move into the first session fairly shortly, which is looking at Brexit and new regulations, specifically around food and drink companies, because they have particular needs that are obviously going to need to be looked at around labelling and other bits and pieces, as well as contractual changes. That's very much a Q&A session. We'll be inviting you to actually ask your questions on an open mic. And we have Nathan Martin from the Kent County Council Trading Standards. We have Dr. Jan van Seghbroeck from the Federal Agency for Food Safety, that's in Belgium. And we have Marc Groothuijse from the Chamber of Commerce in the Netherlands, again, to talk very much around how they will perceive us doing business with them moving forward. Then we will pick up with the British Chambers of Commerce, the Director of Trade Facilitation, a gentleman called Liam Smith, who's been doing these countdown sessions, which some of you may have already attended. And he'll be talking through the sort of trade transition and tariffs with what is only now 29 days left to go. That's a really good opportunity to sort of try and get an angle. So obviously we haven't got a deal yet, so we don't know what the final tariffs may or may not look like. But if we assume it's going to be WTO, then of course there's some information that's already there, and you might want to start, if you haven't done so already, factoring in who's going to pay for that increase in cost. Then of course, as Roger mentioned, we'll move to the session where we're going to talk about keeping Kent moving. We have lived through one or two challenges in the past, more recently, of course, Operation Stack, as it was, now Project Brock, and the impact that had on our economy. And there's lots of questions that will be asked of highways and other KCC bodies to see how they're going to see us through what could be a very difficult time for those not involved in import or export. Then, of course, we will move across to the final session of the day, which is looking specifically around VAT and customs duty. So if you're providing services, if you're a professional service and you're dealing with clients across the EU, how's that going to change? What exactly does that mean in terms of the numbers, the percentages, the units of measurement? What's going to happen there? Are we going to go back to yards and inches, or we're going to stay with the metric system? We'll have to wait and see. And then finally, we'll be working with Graham McKay from the British Standards Institution, because obviously suddenly the rules and regulations might change, and things that are okay here may not be okay in dealing with CE marks. And there's a whole host of questions which we know people want to talk about. So I do hope that you'll find something in today's session which will be of great value to you. And for now, we are going to move on to our first session. So in true Sesame Street style, today's session is brought to you by the letter ICE. This is a European project that we're involved with here at the Chamber, and was supported through the Growth Hub. And we are delighted to be joined by several colleagues who've been involved with the ICE project. And as I mentioned at the intro there, we have expertise from the Netherlands, from Belgium, and obviously from the UK, and from Kent in particular. And what we're going to do is we're going to run through the session in a slightly different format compared to what we'll be doing later in the day. We will be giving a short presentation, then we'll just do some introductions, and then we'll essentially be opening the mics. So if you look in the participants section of your Zoom window, you will see, hopefully, in the window that opens to the right, you'll see a little hand gesture. You can actually put the hand up, and then what I'll do is I'll come to you. We'll make sure your mic's unmuted. If you're not, I'll remind you, and then we'll ask you to pose your question to the panel. It's really important you take the opportunity. There is no such thing as a daft question. Now, because this is sponsored by the ICE project, we will be inviting you to provide some feedback on this particular session. And my colleague, Natasha White from KCC, will be posting a feedback link into the chat area, and we would invite you to have a look at that and feedback towards the end of the session. I think that's all I have to do in the introductions. I don't think there's anything else I need to mention. No, I think I'm looking at Molly. She's nodding, so that's good. Excellent. So without further ado, I would like to move across to our first speaker, who is going to give us a very short update on the situation. This is Nathan Martin, who has been a bit of a legend in terms of supporting the Kent and Medway Growth Hub with some of the changes and challenges that we're all facing, not just on the EU transition, but also on the lockdown guidance as well. So here is a man who has certainly earned his money this week. But Nathan Martin is the Principal Trading Standards Officer at Kent County Council. And Nathan, I'd like to hand over to you now for your short update.
Thank you very much, Tudor. Before I begin, I just want to start to say I have had a few internet problems this morning. It keeps telling me that my internet connection is slow. So I will run through this short presentation, but I will turn my camera off while I'm doing the presentation, try and keep bandwidth down as little as possible at my end. So thank you very much, Tudor. Thank you very much for everybody who's joined today. As Tudor has mentioned, I'm the Principal Trading Standards Officer at Kent County Council. I'm slightly different to other trading standards officers because my primary focus is on business advice rather than on enforcement. As such, I've been working with businesses for the last 4 years, and the last 2 years specifically, we've been talking about Brexit and what you need to do to prepare. So I feel like I've talked about this subject if I'm blue in the face, but there's still time for a little bit more on it. I will just give you a short presentation. It's not going to cover all of the things you're going to have to do food and drink wise from a trading standards perspective, but it's just going to cover one pretty complex issue for which there is not a lot of published guidance available from the government. and that's the whole issue of being established in the EU and whose name and address details need to appear on your product when you send your goods to the EU. So if you'll bear with me, I'll just share my screen and we'll get this presentation going. Okay, can everybody, can you see that, Tudor?
We're seeing your normal, not the presenter version.
Okay, lovely.
Yep, that's good to go. Excellent.
Thank you very much. Okay, so pre-packed food then has to include the name and address of the food business operator. That's the FBO, who is responsible for that food, i.e. they are legally responsible for ensuring it's compliant and they become liable if it's not right. Now, up until now, the responsible operator has been the UK business because we've been part of the EU. Now, while we left the EU almost a year ago, we've been treated as members during transition. But from the 1st of January, we're going to be treated as a third country. And the legislation tells us that where the FBO isn't established in the Union, i.e. they are from a third country, then it's the importer into the EU who is the responsible operator. Now, as the responsible operator, it's the importer's name and address details that have to appear on your product. It's the importer who's responsible for the compliance of your goods, and it's the importer who might face prosecution if your goods aren't compliant. Now, by allowing you to put their name and address on the product, they are taking on a significant responsibility, and it's unlikely they're going to do that lightly. You're going to have to negotiate a formal agreement with them, and time's running out, so you need to start now. Now, many food businesses want to ensure that it's only their details that are appearing on the product, and they're looking for ways to do it. As such, we need to discuss the wording of the legislation, which is established in the Union. Now, what this means is that the business in question is actively trading from and has an element of their operation located in one of the 27 member states of the EU. Now, established in the Union isn't defined in legislation, but if we look at the body of argument that's built up around food law and also other European legislation that uses the same language established in the EU, then there's a number of factors that are key in deciding whether the business is established in the EU. So firstly, where are the business decisions being made? Secondly, where is the infrastructure located? So distribution, manufacturing, storage, etc. And then third, where does the central administration take place? So where are you headquartered, basically? Now, what that means is that setting up a registered office, a PO box, a mail forwarding address, or a telephone answering service in the EU is not enough. If you want to be established in the EU, then some aspect of your business must be based in and operating from the EU. Now, ultimately, if you're not able to move some aspect of your business abroad, then someone else's details are going to have to appear on your product, although of course yours can appear as well. Now, some businesses, or some of you in the audience, may have read the Gough UK guidance on establishment in the EU, which has confused matters because it suggests that it might be as simple as having a registered address in the EU. But to clarify, this is establishment for customs purposes. It's not related to establishment in the EU for the purposes of food legislation. Now, while we're still waiting for formal published guidance, DEFRA, the national lead on food standards, have now offered an opinion that on established in the EU that supports the trading standards position. It's informal at the moment, but the key points are as follows. Now, firstly, the FBO must have a physical presence in the Union, i.e. a food business unit. Therefore, if the address given is a registered office, a PO box, or another address where the operation of a food business is not being conducted, then it's not sufficient. Next, the FBO in the Union must be able to take responsibility for the goods and ensure food information on the goods is accurate and compliant. Therefore, the person at that address must not only be sufficiently knowledgeable about the product and the legislation, but must also have the capacity to correct any non-compliance. Now, that's clearly something that an accountant, a solicitor, or a mail forwarder is not going to be able to do for you. And then lastly, the declared address must be genuine and substantive enough to allow direct and swift contact with the FBO, and also for enforcement actions, so serving notices, etc., to be taken where necessary. Now, this last part is key. The argument around what will be an acceptable address seems to suggest confusion about the fundamental reason why a business needs to be established in the union. It isn't just so someone can write to you. It's because a food business that is established in the union is bound by union laws. It has to comply with the rules that ensure food is safe and doesn't mislead. And if it doesn't, enforcement agencies need to be able to take the necessary action to protect consumers, and consumers themselves can seek redress. Now, none of that can happen if the FBO's only presence is a registered address or an accountant, and that's why it's not sufficient. So to pick up the name and address issue again, each load of goods is a new import into the EU, and as each load is an import, each of your customers is an importer. So if your business model is that you sell your goods directly to, say, 10 businesses within the EU, then each of those businesses is an importer. You have to have agreements in place with each of them, and you'll have to have, and when you send goods to them, their details are going to need to be on your product. Now, your responsibility is to ensure that the goods are compliant when you send them to the EU. Once they're within the EU, they're no longer your responsibility and can be sold freely within the union. If your business model is that you sell the goods in bulk to a single EU business and they then sell them on into other EU member states, then your duty is discharged after delivery to your customer. If they then sell the goods on, they're responsible for ensuring the product is correctly labelled. Now, it's obviously much simpler at your end, and if you think you'd struggle otherwise, you might want to consider whether that model would work better for your business. Okay, so that's the end of the presentation, but I would like to close by saying two things. Firstly, HMRC have made it very clear that goods need to be compliant at the point of transport. So you can't export the goods as they are and then get your customer to fix them at their end. And then secondly, whether it's got an EU address on it is an easy check to make. So if it's wrong, there's a good chance it's going to be picked up and the goods refused entry. That's going to cost you money. So don't take the chance, don't delay, prepare now. Okay. Thank you very much.
Nathan, that's you did say there was an update to some recent development, and this was more than I was expecting. This is quite. I'm a little bit surprised, actually. I shouldn't be. I know there was certain things, but the whole PO box and the telephone number was for me was enough. But clearly, there's going to be a lot more. There will be plenty of opportunities to ask questions at the end of this. Now, we're going to go to Jan for next, and then to Marc. They're just going to introduce themselves, really just to sort of set the context, their area of expertise. And as I say, because we are joined by our colleagues from the Belgium, Netherlands and France, they may also have questions in relation to exporting to the UK. So obviously it'll be interesting to see what their take is on that. But allow me first to introduce you to Dr. Jan van Seghbroeck from the Federal Agency for the Safety of the Food Chain. Jan, nice to have you with us.
Okay, also nice for me because I'm glad to be here in the meeting, so I can present something about import and export. And so, but I must tell in advance that I have a lot of new provisions and other things to tell, because everything is now for import, everything is clear. But for export, we are waiting still for a lot of, for instance, export health certificates from the UK. So there is not all things are not clear on the UK side. So we are waiting still for some information, also to build up the third country status of UK. So also we had a meeting yesterday with the Commission, with DG Santé. And also you are waiting from some more information to develop the third country status so that they can be put in our legislation, the legislation of the EU, and that we can export and that the UK can import with the necessary documents they needed to import their products.
So from your point of view then, as far as the UK exporting to you, you're quite clear about what the rules are and what, you know,
Yes.
how, so that's,
yes.
okay. That's
It's
interesting.
also seen clear in the legislation that is also well known by UK government, and also because they are now trying to take over the certificates from the EU when they are importing goods and like animals, and they are now on the reciprocal side to have developed their own export health certificates from the EU to the UK. But they are not all already published. So we are waiting certainly for products of animal origin, for food, etc. They are not already published.
Just for those on the call with us today, can you just, I'm making assumptions that the Federal Agency for the Safety of the Food Chain is similar to our Food Standards Agency. Is that an equivalent?
Yes, or DEFRA. We have in Belgium we had a merge between different ministries, and now we are only the Food Agency, and they are competent for import and export and certifications. So we are dealing with all those conditions that are in the law for import and also for export, where we are focused on the conditions from the UK.
Yeah, and that's fantastic. Thank you very much indeed. Okay, we're going to come back to you, I'm sure, with lots of questions. We're going to move across now to Marc Groothuijse, who is from the Dutch Chambers of Commerce, which of course is you are part of the government institution. Is that right? You're not actually like us in the UK. We're not a commercial enterprise. Is that right, Marc?
Yes. Good morning to you all. Yes. My name is Marc Groothuijse. I have two positions. I'm advisor foreign affairs at the Chamber of Commerce, and our organization belongs, that's correct, to the government. And secondly, behind me I have a screen. It's called a Dutch Brexit Loket. That's from the government. We work together with our national customs, the Dutch NVWA, Evo Venedex, customs, tax authorities, etc., to guide small and medium enterprises. Well, our organization focuses on two areas. That is import, and secondly also the export documents. We are also involved with documents like certificate for origin, customs documents like UR1, all kinds of clearance documents, etc. Myself, I was related to the Brexit impact scan, and since the introductions until now, that's almost more than 2 years, we have more than 110,000 logs. That means that a lot of companies has filled in this scan. The scan is about 12 till 14 teams, subjects. The small medium entrepreneur can fill it in, and within a couple of minutes he has his results on the screen. Yes.
So it's like an interactive tool, is it? So
yes, it's an interactive tool. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Got it.
Important. Well, recently I received a lot of inquiries from English companies, especially limiteds, who wants to open a branch office here in the Netherlands due to yes or no, a hard or soft Brexit.
The points
People
that Nathan
don't know.
have just raised. Yes.
Also important. I had this morning a discussion with another English person, and he says, well, there are of course subsidies from Brussels. Yeah. And a lot of English companies, they have currently Brussels subsidies like Horizon 2020, etc. And a result of that, they want not to miss this. Well, this money, of course, I understand that. So what they are doing, they are opening a branch office here in the Netherlands, or maybe with my Belgian friends. Yeah.
I see. Yes. So they can still access the EU funding
Yes, of
streams
course.
and
Yeah.
programs that
Yeah.
are running at
Yeah.
interesting
That's it. Yeah.
times.
Yeah.
Okay. Mark, thank you very much indeed. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is where we open the floor. So if you have a question, please do use the hand up mark, which I say again is in the participants area. You should see. I think if we're hosting, we can't see it, but you should be able to see it at the bottom of the participants area. Pop your hand up. You can ask a question of any of our three speakers this morning. Whilst we're just working that out, my first question really was is around Northern Ireland, and this really goes to sort of Mark and Jan, because from your point of view, is it clear in your mind how, what needs to happen in terms of products that you're sending to Northern Ireland? Is there concerns at your side? So maybe Mark, from your answer first.
Well, we recently had, on behalf of the government, two webinars, and my colleague Frank Bertens, he explained the position from our point of view, how Dutch transport companies can do the transit. So it's or directly via the Netherlands to the UK, or via, for example, France. Huh?
Okay.
But there are a lot of clearance documents involved. That's it. That's the issue.
And is it? Are you getting a feedback from the businesses you're dealing with? Are they concerned? Are they sort of? Do they feel confident that their supply chain is going to continue, or are they looking elsewhere?
Well, the recent news, like last weekend, I also made myself on Twitter a post. It's about, let's say, the Kent discussion about the toilets. Yeah, there are a lot of truck drivers who can't do their.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah?
Yes, okay.
That's important. Yeah,
absolutely. The practicalities. Yes.
Yes. That's not only, that's on both sides of the channel. It's not only in the UK. It's also in the EU. Yeah, about traffic jam documents. What about a plan B? Is there a plan B? That's also important. Suppose that there are interference in the internet, yeah, or in the IT, and you have thousands of lorries waiting to cross the channel. Yeah.
Okay, so the same concerns.
Yeah.
Jan, from your side, have you heard any sort of concerns from the Northern Ireland question?
Well, normally it's all arranged, I think, because the protocol is what it is, and it's already signed by the UK government, so it's in force. That means that all SPS and customs regulations are the same as in the European Union. So it means that Northern Ireland is a part of the internal market and in the customs market and the customs union. So there is no difference between Northern Ireland and another member state. So traffic is going on like before it was, and but with the land bridge, the bridge over the UK continent, we have two different lanes to Northern Ireland and to island of Ireland. And it could be via the UK continent, and we have a T2 transit, and it can also be directly from the port of Seghbroeck to a harbour in Northern Ireland or in Ireland. So there is no difference, unless the fact that if you go over the continent of UK, there is also a need of a check at the other side in Northern Ireland or in Ireland to confirm the origin of the products. And for live animals, but it is now not, I think, not a focus on the live animals, but there is also a need for the check of the certificate. But the trade can go on like before, and we have also now a smooth lane over the UK country, because they are a member of the Custom Convention for transit.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. Okay, we're going to go to some questions that are starting to come through. Aidan, I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself and to bring your camera back on, and then ask the question that you have.
Okay, sorry, I'm not Aidan. I'm using my son's computer.
Of course you are. That's right. I remember you saying that at the top of the meeting. Yeah. Yes. So introduce yourself. Who are we speaking to?
So I run a company called Curly Ellie, and we do natural and organic hair care. So we're on this call because it's very similar to the requirements for food in terms of labeling and so on. My main concern with the EU is about 30% of our business is to EU partners. So we supply to salons, pharmacies, stores, and so on. The biggest challenge for us is the labeling and finding a responsible person, which obviously you have in the food side of it. We've spoken to sort of Irish companies who will create, branches out there. We've spoken to people in the Netherlands and so on. And based on today's information, it seems we're back to square one. So I'm sure lots of companies have done this, and I'll be very interested to know what is the ideal solution that allows us to still trade in the EU without having problems, basically. And we also sell online to customers. So again, what are the implications of that? And just how can we make it easy for customers to still be able to buy quality UK hair care, but affordable prices, so we don't end up pricing ourselves out of the market. In addition to that, we also have pains such as our courier service, which we all have a courier service, have all increased prices significantly for any orders going to the EU post-January. So we're seeing that just the cost of goods alone are, the cost of operations are going to be double. So I'm just interested in what other people are doing, and if anyone has come up with a eureka idea that makes it easy for us to carry on. Okay.
That's really good. And a great question. Thank you very much indeed. I think these are the sort of things that really need to come out today to really try and help make sure that people feel confident that they've asked the question, they're not guessing. So that's really good. I can see some hands popping up. I'll come through to you slowly. Let's go to Nathan first on that particular question, because you're the one that broke the bad news there to Aidan's mum.
Hi, thank you very much for your question. The first thing I do have to say is, although on the face of it, the two pieces of legislation seem to share some of the same requirements, the cosmetic side and the food side, the terminology and stuff, although they may sound different, the actual legal requirements for them are completely different, because one is food, one is non-food. So responsible person that you have for cosmetics is completely different to responsible operator. We are just bound by what the legislation says. So your responsible person for your cosmetics, the same rules will not necessarily apply, as I've mentioned about established in the EU, that is for food. And we do see many responsible persons being set up that have completely different responsibilities for cosmetics operators. So the cosmetic responsible person that you've been speaking to won't necessarily be affected by the information I've given you, because that is for the purposes of food. It's a responsible operator rather than a responsible person. So I apologize. I know it's confusing because the terminology is similar, but they do mean very, very different things. In the same way that established in the EU for customs purposes means completely different to being established in the EU for food purposes. So don't necessarily assume that based on what I've said, the arrangements that you have in place, are no longer going to be appropriate. I think the bigger issue for cosmetics, and just to clarify, I know for anyone who isn't involved in cosmetics, they might think, well, what's he talking about? This lady makes shampoo. But unfortunately, shampoo and cleaning products, that sort of thing, soap, they are all included in the definition of cosmetics products. So they are all covered by the same piece of legislation. The bigger issue there, and I don't know whether this lady is aware of it, hopefully she is.
Sorry, I'm just going to interrupt you there a second, Nathan, only because we can't keep calling you Aidan's mum. What's your proper name?
My name is Zaina O'Halloran.
Zaina. I'm just going to change your name on the screen, Zaina. Z-E-N-A?
Z-A-I-N-A.
A-I-N-A.
It actually means beautiful, so.
Oh, how appropriate. There we go. Zaina, thank you very much. Let's just back on a more, I can't keep calling you Aidan's mum. Right, fine. Nathan, sorry to interrupt you. Carry on.
Okay, so Zaina, I'm sure you're aware that the European cosmetics portal is coming to an end. Well, not coming to an end, but the UK business will no longer have access to it. And it's going to be replaced with a UK cosmetics portal that is going to be going live, hopefully sometime in January. So you'll hopefully get some time to transfer over. Your responsible person, I don't think that is going to be the biggest issue for you. I think it's going to be the cosmetics portal. So if you haven't already looked into what you're going to need to do to transfer your goods from the EU portal to the UK portal, I think that should be your next sort of course of action. But with regards to the increase in costs and difficulty sending it, I'm afraid that trading standards don't really have an answer for you on that one.
And I think that's fair. I think we've started to see increase in cost as a bit of sort of protective pricing going on. Businesses and couriers and so forth are covering their bases, and especially, of course, then there's the question of the tariffs as well. Zaina, are you aware if any tariffs will apply in the likelihood of a no deal?
So at the moment, what we do understand is, based on the current tariffs published by, say, the Netherlands and so on, there seems to be a zero tariff on third countries for cosmetics. We're hoping that this will still be the case, but it doesn't apply for every country. But Jan, we know, I don't know, Jan?
Yeah, you're here?
Yes, I'm still here. Yeah, if you.
Zaina was just saying around 0% duty on cosmetics. Is that still the case? You gonna have any plans to sort of start boycotting our facial products?
I only can say for my shop is from the SPS methods. I don't know anything about tariffs and quotas. That is something that one has to ask to customs, etc. Because I know that there are already listings published by the two sides of the canal, I think. So you can, if you want, you can see them if you serve to one or the customs. I think they have already published the EU quotas and tariffs. But concerning the food and of organic products, I can advise you that you look out for the notice that are published on the EU DG Sante website or the EU website for readiness documents, for readiness for the Brexit. And there you find all documents in a very good mean of language, in English also, and you can see there what are the conditions for to import organic products. So I think that is a good document to help you to overcome the SPS conditions.
Zaina, have you had a chance to look at that particular site, or are you comfortable with
I have, and I'm still quite familiar, but I think back to the original question, because obviously in terms of creating, a responsible operator, a responsible person, whatever. Yeah. But is there a good tried and tested approach that UK companies have used in the past, either creating branches over there or anything smarter is what I'm thinking of.
Absolutely, and I know where you're coming from. I'm going to just go to Marc for a moment, because Marc, I know there are some organisations, certainly Dutch chambers, I believe, yes, are acting as a representative person, responsible person, to get the terminology right. Well, is that something you guys do?
Well, concerning her question about the labeling, for example, so if you export from the UK to the EU, I just checked something meanwhile. There are EU regulations for cosmetics. Concerning labeling, it's important that you mention, for example, the name and address of the manufacturer importer. And what we emphasize here in the Netherlands, but also to our Belgium, etc., and other friends, is that the people who are import goods from the United Kingdom, they are from of January the 1st, they are importer. They have another position concerning liability, etc., and that's very important.
So the question I think Zaina was asking there was around your I think Nathan's got an answer to this, but I'm just going to push to see if you know, Mark, specifically around, do you act as a responsible person for UK companies? Are people doing that? Is there a service? I would imagine a market's probably slowly springing up around the EU, so saying we'll act as your responsible operator or your responsible party for a fee. Is that something you've seen happening in the Netherlands?
Sorry, can you? What's the?
So the UK company is going to want to appoint or set up a responsible person, or a responsible operator. Have you seen that as a service being created in the Netherlands at the moment?
Well, I am a member of the, let's say, the foreign team. And I receive a lot of UK questions, etc. I have a very large network, so I can connect people with these kinds of questions. That's the same with Aiden concerning, let's say, the branch. We also have a Netherlands branch of cosmetics, associates, etc. So I can connect her.
Okay, that'd be useful. Nathan,
in terms of the real business. So in terms of how we see it, the problem is we distribute to lots of salons, and they don't necessarily buy pallets at each time. And if we have to create a different label for each individual one before we ship it, again, that eats into our margins and so on. I mean, it's something I'm thinking.
Absolutely, it's a real concern. Let me just go to Nathan here, because he's quite keen to get an answer in. So Nathan.
Well, I will just say my focus is on food. That's what I'm expert in. So I know product safety, but I'm no expert in it. So I've just been double checking while Zaina's been speaking. So it looks like the responsible person obviously can't be the manufacturer in this case because you're outside the EU, but it can be a person designated by a written mandate. So it can be another business that you just designate to be responsible for your affairs. It can be a distributor if they're putting their own name and address, so if it's being sold under their own brand, or it will be the importer into the EU. So you've got a couple of different options there. If you're selling it directly to the business, as in the case of the salons, I guess you'd have to argue that salons themselves were the importer. Their details would have to appear on it, but that would be inefficient and perhaps confusing. So I think the best option is to have a third business, perhaps, who you can designate by written mandate and can be the responsible person for all of your products entering the EU. But they do have responsibilities, so they have to be willing to take responsibility for your goods, making sure that all the labeling is correct, making sure that your product information your product information file is all in place. You've got the necessary cosmetics testing, you're logged onto the portal, all that sort of thing. So it would have to be a formal agreement. They would have to be willing to do all that for you, because if it falls down, then similar to the food situation, they're going to be responsible for it. They're the ones who.
Zaina, does that help answer you? Have we answered your question?
It does. No, it does. It does. But I think, it probably won't be answered on this question, but it's a case of, I know that Mark earlier mentioned that he had companies who've approached him about setting up branches and so on in the Netherlands and so on. So I was more interested in that side of it, more in the structural side.
I would imagine, rather like we do with solicitors here in the UK, where they act as sort of a registered address. I mean, Mark, if the chamber haven't figured that one out already, you're missing an opportunity. I imagine there's probably a chance to act as a registered address.
Yes.
If I could chime in,
Yes, please do, Nathan.
Because I do just want to reiterate the point that I made about being able to take action against the business. I mean, you talk about having someone who can do it for you. It does have to be a real business. Can't just be a registered office address. Can't just be a PO box address. Because if something goes wrong, there has to be somebody there who has agreed to deal with it.
Is that if that's a responsible operator or a responsible person?
That's going to be anyone who is established in the union.
Right.
Yeah, that is why they've made that point that it has to be somebody in the EU. So there is a real person that can deal with it and who can have action taken against them if needs be.
I can see a lot of sort of hot desking going on with sort of extended employees working across in the EU. Could be interesting to move ahead. Okay, Zainab, please do feel free to contact us afterwards or to sort of make contact with Nathan. These details are on the slides and will be available at the end to sort of get clarity on that. But we're really keen to try and help. And we're going to move on with some other questions here.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome, Zainab. Lisa, you've had your hand up very patiently. Thank you very much indeed. Lisa, are you with us now? Need to take you off mute.
Hear me?
There you go, Lisa. Hi. What's your question?
Okay, I work for a chemical company, and for the last 21 years, excuse me, 80% of our business has run out of continental Europe. We have fiscal representation in each of the countries we work out of. We've applied for an EU EORI number so we can carry on importing and exporting after the 1st of January. But suddenly I've been made aware that we need to have an indirect representation agreement with a customs agent to allow us to continue exporting. So I want to know a little bit more about that.
Excellent. Any volunteers from our panel of three? I noticed Graham Card's on the call with us today as well. Graham is the Chamber's import and export advisor and is a bit of a customs expert as well. So, Graham, I'm going to throw that question out to you as well if you wanted to have a stab at answering that. Are you can you help us at all?
I want to suggest that I wasn't listening, Tudor or Lisa. But I was actually concentrating on making a note of something that I'm going to need to cover in a little while. So I didn't catch the start of that.
That's fine. Lisa, did you want to just repeat the question there, because it was specifically around indirect customs agents, wasn't it?
Okay, so yeah, 80% of our business runs out of continental Europe. So we're set up for fiscal representation. I'm in the process of getting an EORI number so we can, an EU EORI number so we can carry on importing and exporting. And then a local agent has made us aware that we need an indirect representation agreement so we can carry on exporting. And I'd like to know a little bit more about that.
Okay, well, thanks very much. The honest answer is I'm going to need to go away and do the research, but I'm happy to help you with that. In fact, I'm engaged by the Chamber to do just that sort of thing. What I can bring to the party is, firstly, I suppose, the honesty that I don't always know all of the answers, but secondly, a background in trade so that when I am doing some research or being given some answers by official bodies, I can usually be a reasonable interpretation of what's being said. So I think what I would suggest is if we can speak separately at the end of the meeting, or maybe you put your email address in the chat and I'll pick it up so that we can have a communication.
I'll put yours in there now, Graham. I'll put your email address in there.
Could I just add, though, that I think one of the most important points that has been made is perhaps the whole subject of distributors in terms of the marketplace. And I think just as a general kind of, if you like, a helicopter view of what's going on at the moment, this may not affect you directly because you've got, as you said already, 80% of your operation in Europe. But the sort of the helicopter view is that we're moving from a situation where Europe is the home market to where Europe is an overseas market. I mean, that may be stating the obvious to many of you, but in terms of the way we then approach our market in terms of the customers. We're moving back into the area of, do we have an agent, do we have a distributor, that sort of thing, and the sorts of responsibilities of those operations. But Lisa, if you, I can see that my email address has been put in the chat now. If you'd like to put yours in there as well, thank you, I've got it there. Yep. Or indeed send me an email and we'll get onto it.
That's
okay,
great, Graham. Thank you, Lisa. Am I right in this is to do with customs declarations? Is that right? Is this what you're looking for, or are you going to be doing that yourself?
For imports, we already have local freight forwarders. We've got 2 in France and 2 in the Netherlands. But one of the Netherlands partners made us aware that we need this indirect representation agreement to be able to export from the EU.
Yeah, export from the EU. Okay.
Yeah,
interesting. Okay. Yeah, we'll look into that. That's quite it. The chamber obviously runs as a customs broker. We act as a customs broker, and we provide customs declaration service for people. So we can always help on that front. But hopefully we'll get a direct answer for you there. Just going to invite, because you mentioned the fact that you're exporting from the EU. Robert Colony. Colony, are you there still, Robert? You got a question for us?
Hello.
Yeah, hi Robert, we got you. What's your question?
Yeah, that was quite coincidental that
yes.
the previous speaker raised that question. So I'm involved initial discussions with a manufacturer of food supplements in the Republic of Ireland, who I know currently the UK is one of their markets. So this is kind of the reverse situation. What is the situation then for an EU manufacturer shipping into the UK? What will they need to do?
Excellent. Yeah, and this is I think very much your question or area of expertise. Do you want to have an attempt at an answer on that one?
If it is related to chemicals, I don't think it's under my.
Well, food supplements.
Food supplements, yes. Yes.
From an EU member state into the UK, what are they going to have to do?
I must say that I don't know it because no, because I don't have any written declarations of the UK government about food supplements.
Okay.
I think.
Well, Nathan's got his hand up, so I'm going to jump across to Nathan to see. Yeah. Nathan, come on, what's the story from the EU to UK?
Well, the key word in food supplements is food. Food supplements are just another type of food. They have to follow all of the normal rules for food. The UK government has passed UK versions of all of the EU food legislation, including our own version of the food supplements regs. So with regards to, the product themselves, the rules they have to follow, all of the rules will stay exactly the same. With the alterations we've seen that UK businesses are going to have to do to the EU, basically exactly the same. So whereas we need the importer's name and address of where they're established in the EU and we send our goods to there, they're going to need the same for us. So there's going to have to be a name and address on their product of an importer established in the UK, and the relationship's going to work exactly the same. So they're going to need to have that relationship in place, where if something's wrong with it, the UK importer is willing to take responsibility, might end up having action taken against them, etc. So not just sticking the name and address on there, needs to be a formal agreement. But otherwise, everything is going to stay the same. It's just that big change on the name and address.
Excellent. Robert, does that answer your question?
Yes and no. Just one further complication from that. If this is direct sales through the internet, so individual customers ordering their monthly pack of supplements, then how would that work? Because it's not going through an importer, it's going from B2C, I guess.
Yeah.
The situation is a little muddier at the moment, I have to say. The government are going to be providing guidance on it, because from July, the direct supply route is going to have its own rules. Unfortunately, I can't really give you chapter and verse on what those rules are at the moment, but as Graham suggested, if Tudor, you're willing to put my email address in the chat, if you email me directly, Robert, I will find out what those new requirements are and I will get back to you.
Perfect. That's really good. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And Robert, can I just say thank you? Are all these questions from Zena and from yourselves, Robert? They're really key, because I think the most important thing is you're not alone. You know, there is absolute specifics which we all have, and so you know this is your chance to ask the question. And if you can't answer it now, we'll take some details and we'll try and get back to you as well. So that's brilliant, Nathan. Thank you very much indeed. I'm just gonna...
Could I just ask a
Graham,
quick question,
please do.
Tudor?
Yep.
Further to Lisa's question, just in doing some research whilst listening with one ear, can I just clarify, and I will do some more research. Can I just clarify? Are you the same as Shreve? I couldn't find shreve.co.uk, but I could find shreve.com. Are you the same as shreve.com, which is a chemical trading company? Because if so, I need to go into a fair bit of information regarding the chemical sector.
Yes, that is us. Yeah, shreve.com.
Okay, in that case, let's stay connected by email as we've already agreed to do. Just wanted you to know, and everyone else who's on the call really, that we will go the extra mile and try and get the answers for you when we don't know what the exact answer is. But in this case, it's going to be about chemicals and hazardous goods and all that kind of stuff.
I'm pleased to say that the Kent and Medway Growth Hub, which is delivered by the Chamber, has had some questions, had some additional funding, which means that we're able to retain Graham under the Growth Hub. So his advice is free and unlimited at the moment. So please do take advantage. And of course, I know that both Mark and Jan are more than happy to try and fill questions that you may have in relation to their areas of expertise.
Of course.
Now, is it Lena? Line? Not sure. Lena, you got a hand up. How can I help?
Hi, it's Lena, indeed.
Lena, thank you.
Hi. So I'm actually working for a food company that sells French fries to from Belgium and the Netherlands to the UK.
Belgian French fries, fantastic.
Yeah, Belgian fries, not French fries.
Of course, of course. How remiss, beg your pardon.
So my question is about Northern Ireland. We have one customer over there, and we can just export as normal. There are no customs formalities. But what with VAT? What's the law around VAT in Northern Ireland and Brexit? And yeah.
Oh, okay. Any volunteers on that one at the moment? Has anyone got any information they could share? Jan, Mark? No,
As I have noticed, I think all regulation also about the customs and regulation UCC and TVA are going to stay like it is before, like it was before, are not going to change. So also for the TVA, I think it's going to change. It's not going to change and stay like before.
If you have time, Lena, at 2 p.m. We have a session with a VAT expert, Sue Rathmel, will be online. And if you wanted to pop back and join us, then you can come in and out throughout the day. You're more than welcome to answer the question of her, and I'm sure she'll be able to give you a definitive answer.
It's 2 p.m. Belgium time or UK time?
That'll be UK time.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much.
And if you can't make it, then please do just drop us an email. You can email if you like Graham, which his email address is in the chat there, and we'll follow that up for you and try and get you an answer.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent. Okay, I'm just watching the time. The clock is ticking down here. We are working towards our our next session fairly soon. Can I ask if you have any other questions, please do pop them on there. Nancy, are you still with us? You had a question about EORI numbers, I believe, Nancy. Nancy, I'm not sure if you're still with us. Okay, I'll ask the question on your behalf. So Nancy was asking whether or not you're going to need an EORI number. Oh, Nancy, you're there. Great. Nancy, over to you. You need to take you off mute. There you go. Nancy, we can hear you. Nancy? Okay, Nancy, for some reason we can't hear you at the moment, so we'll come back to you hopefully, and I can ask you a question if we don't get through. Leonid, you wanted to come back to Lisa regarding the indirect representation. You've obviously been a keyboard warrior in the spare time, so Leonid, do come in and see if you can answer the question here for Lisa.
Yeah. So maybe a short introduction from myself. So
yes, please.
I'm Leonid Gough, advisor international trade at VOCA Chamber of Commerce West Flanders. And Lisa, I was following your question regarding the indirect representation when goods are sent from the European Union to the UK. And I understood that your customs agent is requesting you to have this kind of contract formality.
Yeah.
Well, this will be necessary because once UK will be out of the European Union, in order to export goods from the European Union to third country, you need to be established in the in one of the 27 member states of the European Union. What you can do is, and what is currently done, a lot of companies that are not established in Belgium or in the Netherlands, for example, in the future UK companies, they can apply an indirect representative who will be who will act on behalf of the UK company in this case, and who will issue the export documents when goods are sent from the European Union to the UK. So I think this is what your customs agents mean under this indirect representation contract. And this will be indeed necessary in order to continue exporting goods from the mainland to UK market or to other third countries. Sorry.
Okay. So we have one company that's mentioned this to us. Once we commit to that contract, can we, how do you say it? We can only use that company, or can we use somebody else if we decide we don't like their services?
Well, if you have a contract with this company will be mentioned on the export document, and this company will normally take care of the export formalities for your company. So if you want to change, you have to, of course, you have to think to have another contract with another third party who will indirectly represent you when goods are exported.
Okay.
But still, you are required, but I think this was already okay, you are required to have an EU, so European EORI number.
Yes, our French fiscal representative has already requested one from the French authorities, but
this is okay then.
Yeah.
Once you have the French EORI number, you can use it in the Netherlands, in Belgium, and France, and whatever member state you want.
Excellent. Okay, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Leonid, thank you very much indeed for jumping in there. So Nancy's question was around, and again, it ties into the last one, do we need an EORI number for Northern Ireland and another one for the EU? Just not sure who might have that. Graham possibly, or Nathan? Nathan first.
Yeah, I will say I'm not an expert on customs, but I've been asked to look this up for someone, so I do think I know the answer to this one.
Okay.
Northern Ireland is still part of GB, so a GB EORI number would cover Northern Ireland, and you need a GB EORI number to move stuff in and out of the UK. and you would need an EU one to move stuff in and out of the EU. So my understanding is that you need both GB and EU EORI numbers.
Okay, Graham, do you have anything to add to that one at all?
Yeah, I was just coming to exactly the same situation. The one thing I would add is that the government are running, I think it's government, but it may be chambers. I need to look it up. There is a Northern Ireland Traders helpline, which I can do some double checking on. But essentially, yeah, I think an EU EORI number is going to be required if you're dealing with Southern Ireland. If you're dealing with Northern Ireland, it's, as Nathan says, it's I mean, we are in the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. So, you know, Northern Ireland should be covered.
Okay, that's great, Graham. Thank you, Mark. Or Mark, you might be able to answer this next question. So, Julie Brooks, are you there? Had a question about EU EORI numbers.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Julie. Thank you. What's your question?
Hello. Hi, yes, I work for an American company moving clinical trial devices into and out of Europe. We have to ship them as permanent exports because we never know when the clinical trial will end, and often it's 5 years, maybe even longer if they're high enrolling sites. So we export them as permanent exports, and then when they come back out to us, they're sent back to the US. So that's just what we do. I've been trying to find out if we need to get hold of an EU EORI number to get stuff into and out of Europe next year, and I was told that I needed to have a footprint in the EU in order to apply for one, but I don't have one. We have a small UK office and we have our main facility in the US.
Mark.
Is the essence that you are direct selling your products?
No, we're not selling them.
You store them.
We actually procure the devices and we own them until the point of shipment, and then say the sponsor like Pfizer or someone we're deploying for that particular company, they own the goods at the point that they are shipped.
Okay, in the Netherlands we have, there are many logistic companies who have so-called douane entrepot. That means it's a kind of free area zone.
Okay.
Yeah, that means that the goods are being stored where they are not selling in the EU.
Yeah.
And at the moment that you have a lead or an invoice, commercial lead, when you sell it, then and when you export to one of the EU countries, then you have to pay taxes, import taxes, yes or no VAT, etc.
So it's the same as a bonded warehouse, I think, in the UK.
That's the word.
Bonded warehouse.
Bonded warehouse. Okay. That's the word. Yeah, yeah.
So Julie, your company wouldn't, Mark, Julie's company wouldn't require an EORI number because the distributor would use the bonded warehouse to hold the goods. Is that right?
Well, the EORI, you have to use it when you import and export. So more or less, when you export from the UK to the EU, it's more or less you need an EORI number. But on the other hand,
but that's a UK EORI.
Yeah.
But for distributing from within the EU to either member states or outside of the EU, will they require an EORI number, an EU registered EORI number?
Well, listen, what I heard from our customs, at every time when you import or export, with certainly with clearance, you need an EORI number.
Okay, Julie, does that answer your question? I think what we're saying is you do need a EU EORI number because you're moving goods, basically exporting from the EU. Is that how you understand it?
Yes, but how do I get hold of one if I don't have an EU footprint?
Exactly. So that's the next question we need answering. How do you get hold of an EU EORI number if you don't have an address or
you need, that's I think that's the same in Belgium and France. You need an address, so you need to be registered, or maybe via a fiscal representative.
Right? Okay.
A fiscal representative. And do you have one of those, Julie?
Not yet.
Okay, Mark, are they easy to come by? Do we know? I think there was someone else. Lisa was on talking about fiscal representatives, weren't you? So, are they easy to come by, Mark?
To come by.
To get hold of or to engage with.
Well, try to contact many international transport agencies. They work in most cases on behalf of structure.
Okay.
They work with fiscal representative contracts, etc.
Lisa, I think it was yourselves that was talking about fiscal representatives earlier. Is there any tips or advice you could give to Julie here?
They're very easy to come by. What country are you mainly looking at in the EU? Did you say France?
We ship to all of the EU countries, all the main ones. I think only Slovenia is about the only country I haven't been to yet. But
okay, I can give you the name of a company we work with in France, and as things are changing next year, they'll also be taking over our Dutch fiscal representation because the guy that we work with now can't do it. And there's a possibility that they're going to take over our Belgian activity as well because that company can't work with us. And the company we work with in France is called Eurotax.
Eurotax, okay.
Yeah.
There we go. Excellent. A bit of networking as well. It's exactly what the Chamber does. How fantastic.
Lovely. Thank you very much for your help.
Thank you very much indeed. Okay, Mark, thank you very much for your support there. I think there are, as is often the way in these situations, there are the rules, and the rules are what they are, and there are certainly plenty to go through. But it's often the sort of the more practical operational things that businesses share and learn and sort of figure out really how to do these things. Like, okay, we now know you need to have a responsible person or responsible operator in the EU if you're involved with food. Okay, what does that look like? Who can do that for you? What are the practicalities? Now, I think we've starting to sort of run out of time a little bit, so I'm conscious that we may still have unanswered questions, but we have posted email addresses and contact links into the chat area. There's one specifically around the government's Northern Ireland help service for those of you that are involved there, and also another one from tradesupportservice.co.uk is also there, being posted by Steve Sampson. I'm very keen that we take some questions away here and make sure we come back to you. Please do feel free to post your questions into the chat. If we haven't answered them, we will download that and try and distribute them amongst our speakers. But we're going to move on because we have a very busy day ahead of us. I do hope that you found this useful. My parting advice really is, if you're not sure, please do ask. You will not be the only person that is facing this particular problem right now. And it can be quite difficult. It can take a while to get to the bottom of it, but we are here to try and make sure that you have all those questions answered beforehand. I would just like to say thank you very much indeed to Nathan Martin from Kent Trading Standards. Nathan, thank you so much for joining us and for continuing to support us at the Growth Hub and the Chamber. Thank you for Graham, who was unexpectedly drawn into the conversation there. I'm glad you were around. Thank you. Thank you to Jan, also to Mark for joining us from the Belgium and from the Netherlands. Your input is really helpful, and thank you to all those who have participated and asked questions this morning.